Coming up on WMLT News, Capitol High School's former principal is in hot water.
Plus, a snowstorm rocked the campus beautiful. All this and more starts right now.
Hello, and welcome to WMLT News. I'm Kristen Osborne.
And I'm Brad Sullivan. A recent weather system rocked the entire northeastern coast of the United States, dropping record-breaking snow as well as temperatures that came in well below zero. The Mountain State, as well as much of the Northeast, saw a lot of school cancellations and snowplows. The Campus Beautiful was no different, as it shut down for the entire week of February 16th. Concord student residents certainly took advantage of the time off, using the hill and the valley for a giant sledding area, as well as bundling up for snow angels. The university, with a large commuter base for both faculty and students, did well, taking into consideration the commute that had become frozen and dangerous. The campus did reopen on Monday the 23rd on an inclement weather schedule due to the cold temperatures and potential for black ice.
The Department of Transportation's Federal Railroad Administration launched a full-scale investigation of the train derailment in Fayette County. On February 16th, a 109-car unit train pulled by two locomotives derailed outside of Montgomery area, causing fires and even a few explosions. The cars carrying crude oil near the Kanawha River derailed, contaminating drinking water as well as forcing an evacuation of the surrounding areas. Due to the evacuations, water crisis, and fire control, the DOT was limited in the work they could do. They will return to the Montgomery area to conduct their investigation.
Former Kanawha County principal is scheduled to stand trial on March in a misdemeanor charge for failing to report a sexual assault allegation. Prosecutors say a 15-year-old female student told a counselor at the school on January 26th that she was sexually assaulted by a male student. Giles is accused of not taking action that day after the counselor reported the assault. Sources report that former principal Clinton Giles pleaded not guilty on Tuesday. Kanawha County Circuit Court Judge Kerry Webster scheduled Giles' trial for March 23rd. He will remain free on a personal recognizance bond until the trial.
Sources say that a water distribution site has been set up for people without water in Boone County. According to a news release, customers in higher elevations in southeastern Boone County are experiencing low water pressure or water outages. The source of the problem was a water main break in the area. Due to the circumstances, a 1,000-gallon water tank has been set up at the volunteer fire department to provide bulk water for people affected by the water break. Firefighters will be giving out water all day to those in need.
The latest best professor in West Virginia has been named. Katarina Scray, a Marshall English professor specializing in medieval literature, is this year's Professor of the Year. A banquet for the statewide award was held for Scray to accept the award.
Police in Fresno, California found a cave hidden on property that led to concealed guns, gambling machines, and marijuana. Police were incited to explore it when they noticed individuals running through the house with children present. A crying woman answered the door as police entered against her wishes. A nearby chicken coop built on skateboard wheels concealed the hidden cave. 3 men were connected to the investigation and are currently arrested towards the incident.
President Obama vetoed a bill that would have approved the Keystone XL pipeline, making good on a threat to reject the proposal. The pipeline was embraced by Republicans as a job measure, but opposed by environmentalists. Obama said in his veto message, quote, "The presidential power to veto legislation is one I take seriously. And because this act of Congress conflicts with established executive branch procedures, it has earned my veto," end quote. This is only the third veto of his presidency, but is likely to be the first in a series of vetoes as he parries a Republican-controlled Congress in the last 2 years of his presidency. The White House has already issued 13 formal veto threats so far this year, the most since President Ronald Reagan began the practice. Obama's veto doesn't mean the end of the Keystone debate. Obama could still approve the project on his own authority, although he has suggested that its environmental impact would outweigh any economic benefits.
WMLT will be right back.
Welcome back. Now this week's Arcadian Game Review, here's Dalton Boggs.
Thanks guys. Today on Arcadian Games, I'm going to talk about a new kind of RPG to come onto the scene. Y2K, a postmodern RPG, is the latest game to come from indie developers Axe Studios, the guys who brought us the game Two Brothers. Y2K is a game whose plot is literally about the end of the world, though it's not as cut and dry as it may seem. In the game, you play as Alex Eggleston, a recent college graduate in the odd and panicky year of 1999, who finds that the adult world is incredibly strange, finds himself obsessed with investigating the mysterious disappearance of a woman in an elevator, and a strange, unmanaged van called the Death Cab. This obsession leads to events that change his life forever. Reuniting with old childhood friends, Alex must go on a quest to save the world. The game takes tons of influence from a JRPG called Earthbound, going almost out of its way to create a strange and memorable experience for the player. The story is about 400 pages worth of script, leaving this indie title nice and long considering. Combat is straight-up turn-based action with a hint of quick-time events posted in. The developers did add a few tricks to it, however. Taking damage can increase a sort of slow-motion bar that helps the player land combos in battle. They also implemented traps to the game, which can allow you to do things such as create a substitute to take the brunt force of a hit from a monster if the player happens to be too underleveled. This game is still in the developmental stage, so there isn't much else to talk about in this Arcadian. However, I can say that this game is going to be incredible. With a story that has 400 pages of script to back it up, engaging combat system, and an incredibly engaging world, Y2K will be a game people remember for a while. Y2K will be released on the PlayStation 4, PS Vita, PC, and even the Nintendo Wii U. That's it for Arcadian this week. This is Dalton Boggs, logging off.
Thanks, Dalton. Last Sunday, the Academy Awards held the 87th Annual Oscars, hosted by Neil Patrick Harris. Harris created a magical opening number featuring Anna Kendrick and Jack Black. Best Picture went to Birdman. Eddie Redmayne as Stephen Hawking from The Theory of Everything won Best Actor. Julianne Moore as Alice Howland from Still Alice won Best Actress. J.K. Simmons as Fletcher from Whiplash won Best Supporting Actor, and Patrice Arquette as the mom from Boyhood won Best Supporting Actress.
And now, with this week's trending topics, here's Katie Stowers.
Hi, I'm Katie Stowers. We're here with this week's trending topics. Following behind the success of the novel, the 50 Shades of Grey feature film broke box office's worldwide grossing over $400 million since the opening weekend. The soundtrack to 50 Shades may be just as popular as the film and novels. Debuting at number 2 on the Billboard's Top 200, the album features huge recording artists such as Sia, The Weeknd, Anne Lennox, the Rolling Stones, and Beyoncé. Following in the steps of 23 other states throughout the country, a bill that would legalize the use of marijuana in West Virginia for medical purposes was among the final bills introduced in the state Senate Monday, the deadline for bills introductions during the year's regular legislative session. As proposed, the Creating Compassionate Use Act for Medical Cannabis provides protections for the medical use of cannabis for debilitating medical conditions that are defined in the bill. It also requires qualifying patients and designated caregivers to be registered with the state. In other herbal news, a Penn State study has found that a compound in green tea has the ability to kill mouth cancer cells and leave other cells undamaged. Treatment for oral cancer, which kills over 8,000 Americans per year and affects more than 43,000, is currently limited to a combination of chemotherapy, surgery, and radiation. While traditional chemotherapy can cause hair loss and muscular atrophy, green tea consumption has few side effects. That's all for this week's trending topics. I'm Katie Stowers.
Thanks, Katie. And now with this week's Ticket or Leave It, here's Jesse Stevens.
Thanks, guys. If you're looking for a fascinating true story about hope and perseverance, then you definitely need to check out Big Eyes. This movie is based on the life of artist Margaret Keane and her strikingly unusual style. After leaving her husband and moving to the city with her daughter, Margaret meets Walter, a man who seems to be her dream come true. He cares for her and her daughter, but most importantly, he supports her in her painting. Walter is an up-and-coming artist as well. However, he is much more motivated by money. Walter does everything he can to sell his and Margaret's artwork. He is so caught up in selling that he finally does the unthinkable and takes credit for his wife's work in order to sell it. The film depicts Margaret's struggle to maintain a relationship with her family and stand up for her rights as an artist and a person. Big Eyes features several all-star actors, including Amy Adams and Christopher Waltz. Every member of the cast puts on a powerful performance that will leave you breathless. Big Eyes is an inspirational story, but it's not for the faint of heart. Directed by Tim Burton, the film is constructed in his classic over-the-top style. However, it also depicts several instances of domestic abuse. Overall, Big Eyes is a pretty good movie. It is no classic, but it does tell an amazing story that you won't soon forget. Big Eyes scores 3 out of 5 stubs. It's set to be released on DVD and Blu-ray on April 14th, so don't forget to check it out. And that's it for this week's Ticket or Leave It. I'm Jesse Stevens. Thanks for watching.
Here's This Week in Sports.
Thanks, guys. Last weekend was All-Star Weekend in the NBA, and it was a good one. Stephen Curry of the Warriors won the three-point contest, defeating his teammate Klay Thompson and Kyrie Irving of the Cavs. The participants in the dunk contest delivered a great performance, but Zach LaVine took home the victory, scoring perfect scores on 2 of his dunks. Finally, Russell Westbrook delivered an unreal performance in the All-Star game, scoring 41 points, only 1 point shy of the 1962 Wilt Chamberlain record. Westbrook led the West All-Stars to a 163-158 victory over the East All-Stars and earned the All-Star MVP award. On to college hoops. March Madness is closing in on us, and with the nation full of teams hoping to make it to the tournament, the undefeated Kentucky Wildcats are still leading the pack at number 1, with basketball closing out in the next few weeks. Baseball will lead off in full swing. MLB teams reported to spring training camp, and one of the most anticipated returns is the New York Yankees' Alex Rodriguez after a season-long suspension for using performance-enhancing drugs. Here at Concord, our first game of the season was Friday against Shepherd. Even football is not silent with the spring combine this past week. This year's top NFL hopeful performers were J.J. Nelson of UAB, Trey Waynes of Michigan State, Philip Dorsett of Miami, Chris Conley of Georgia, and Kevin White of West Virginia. And the lone record broken at this year's combine was Byron Jones breaking the broad jump record. That's all for sports. Back to you at the desk.
For WMLT News this week, I'm Brad Sullivan.
And I'm Kristen Osborne. This week, we're leaving you with some shots of the campus beautiful as a winter wonderland.